right, welcome to a very special edition of Agent After Hours. I'm here with Kent Daly, and Kent had the opportunity to introduce me to Colonel Robert Whaley. Thank you so much for being here. Tell me about how you guys met, and then we'll dig into kind of your story.
You know, when my dad passed away, he's a really hardworking guy and really involved in the community. One of the things that was really important to him was to provide affordable housing. So he had several homes. When he passed away, he wanted to use the assets of the homes to provide college education for his grandchildren, not his children, his grandchildren. Which just proverb says provide for your grandchildren. Well, Kent did a fantastic job of really helping my family out with that. He helped us with funding. He helped us with the distribution, everything else like that, and to include, the actual going into a trust and everything else like that. From that time, I just looked and said, "Yep, this is a great guy." But this is how we really became close. Called him up afterwards. And we started talking about baseball because we both play baseball. So, that's how we really became close. But, one of the things that I think that folks in your business will recognize is the difference. He made such a difference. My dad's grandchildren, they went to college based upon that fund. And that fund got decent prices so that they could actually have great capital to go to schools that they wanted to. So, a couple of them went to private schools and went in Westchester, which is, the Clintons and all those guys like that, and everything else like that. So that's, I'm indebted to my friend and to this industry for making that happen. So.
Well, Bob, it didn't take long for the bond.
No.
We're definitely brothers. Never met my brother until a few years ago, but we're definitely brothers. And it was just so interesting to get to know him. And as I got to know him, I figured out, holy camole, this guy. I'll just give you a little quick look, skinny, and a little background. But Bob grew up on the east side of Covington, and I'm sure it was about $900,000 house he grew up in. maybe I don't know, or maybe 25,000. And I grew up kind of similar. We laughed about, we're going to take a tour sometimes and visit our great houses. But Bob grew up on the east side of Covington, went to Holy Cross High School. Some of you know that in the Latonia and Covington area. Then he went on to Xavier University. And actually this Saturday, I have the pleasure of going with him. He's being inducted into the Xavier Hall of Fame, ROTC, for all of his accomplishments. So I won't name them all, but just suffice it to say he rose to the ranks of Colonel in the United States Army, was involved in some of the most serious things that you and I read about in the newspapers and heard about. He was involved in the war planning in Iraq, and he was deeply involved in, if you remember, the disaster that we had at Fort Hood. His job was to kind of clean up those messes. So we thought it'd be interesting to have him here. He's been through everything. He sat in Joint Chiefs of Staff meetings. He shook hands with the president. He's challenged President Obama, and he's good friends with President Bush. And, just a fascinating guy to have come up from the city of Covington, or from Covington where he did to. He tells me this story. I'll just tell it real fast. He says from time to time he just comes out of the Pentagon or some congressman's office and walking down the steps and he goes, "What? Little Bobby Whaley from the east side of Covington. I'm here." So he's as humble as they come. And I'm just going to turn over to you for his life story, because the things that he's done and the things that he's accomplished really parallel any business. But the real estate people, we talk about preparation, we talk about ongoing adjustment to your plans and practicing and make sure before you get on stage that you know what's going to happen. And then certainly, I would say a time or two in your military career, things didn't go the way they were supposed to, and you had hit it on the fly and come up with new plans. So we're just going to kind of turn it over to kind of talk about your life story and kind of talk about the military, how that might apply to us. And I'll get out of the way and let you guys kind of talk. I just want to introduce one of my best friends, Bob.
He's got it on time, on target. And then the story that he just told, it's a true story. I'm walking out with a 3-star general, and I'm got this goofy look and they're starry-eyed. He looked at is wrong with you? I said, little Bobby Whaley, Margaret and Buddy's son from Covington, Kentucky, just popped out of, Congress. And he's looking, he's laughing because he's from Steubenville. So he grew up like we did. He's laughing. He said, yeah, I don't ever get over it anyway. So it is surprising to do that. It's funny coming from the east side of Covington, because when I first got into the military, it was a hard fit for me. It was just really, really, really hard. The cultural change for me, but the sergeants were able to instill a sense of purpose and discipline. And from that, as a leader, that became the bedrock. In my mind, and we teach, there are 4 indicators of a successful organization: discipline, cohesion, morale, and esprit de corps. Discipline is the ability to have your team do what they need to do without a lot of supervision. They know their job, they're able to do it, and they're willing to do it. Because the key to that, and everybody knows this old time principle, are you willing and are you able? And that, as we as leaders have to make sure that people are able. We have to train them. And then we have to, that's where that morale and esprit de corps comes in, that they're willing, that they do that. So you get to that cohesion. And in my mind, no matter what business you're in, but especially the military, no one does anything as an individual. Yeah, you have to have the team. The team does that. You have to be able to support everything that's going on. So discipline is as an individual, but cohesion is as a team. That you're able to kind of support each other, reinforce, excuse me, what's going on. Morale is that thing that goes on, and it says that, hey, my unit treats me right, and my leaders treat me right. Their values that's inside the organization. That's, in my mind, that's essential, that you have great values. No matter what anyone says about America's military, these are people who have their ethics and their values are really strong. And it's because it's reinforced all the time. Do the right thing. You know your business and do what's right all the time. And so as a leader, that is paramount to being successful. And finally, esprit de corps. And esprit de corps really gets to that thing where you identify with the organization. In other words, when they see us, meaning the Army or even REMAX, do they see themselves? Do they see themselves inside of that? And so inside my kit bag over there, I got 101st Corps everywhere I go, because no matter where I go, everybody knows I'm a security leader. And I am. I'm from the 101st Airborne. And every speech that I've given, it starts off with aerosol, 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 because that's my home. That's what I believe in that. So bring those core values together as a leader. To me, that's what helped me to have successful teams. I know I'm going on for a little bit, but I think there are a couple other things that are important. There's a guy by the name of General Rick Mushroom. He used to say, be competent, that will make you confident, and then forge relationships. And I think that he captured that. As the senior leaders are standard bearers, so you got to do what's right. I mean, you just got to do what's right, period. If you don't do what's right, it doesn't mean your organization is not going to be successful in production, but it does mean that your organization won't bring about the culture and climate that you want for a successful organization. You can't do that. So you got to be a standard bearer, but you got to know your business. You really, if you know your business, man, you are a host from my perspective. And your team can carry you a certain amount, but at some point, the team begins to fail because you just don't understand the principles of your. But if you do understand the business, then you become confident, and then it becomes the key of forging relationships. And what's that mean? Now, General Whaley, one of my coaches and mentors, talks about integration, meaning going up and down your organization, and synchronization, meaning going across. And so, one of the things that used to crack up a lot of the senior leaders about me in the Pentagon, they would look around and say, "Where's Bob? Oh, he's not here." And they look at me and say, "Well, I was over at G3, I was over at G4, I was over at the Joint Staff. What are you doing in there?" "Oh, I'm just hanging out." And what you're doing is you're forging relationships and everything else like that. And so I go visit these guys all the time so that they knew who I was. in return, they would come visit me. And when they would come in the office, I would always stop what I was doing. The team would look and say, why do you stop? That's my homie right there. And if he comes in and he's looking at me and saying, hey man, I need some help with this, stop. Go help. Go. My website is habu.com. Hook a brother up.com. And go hook them up. And then, you know, it's amazing then. One of the things that, and I'll tell this, the king of operations, we call him the G3. And all the staff officers are the same rank. So if you're in a battalion, you're all captains. If you're in a brigade, you're all majors. If you're in a division, you're all lieutenant colonels and colonels. And so the G3, when I was in Korea, is talking and I'm listening to everything else like that. And so he looks at me and says, do you have any questions? I know, I'm good. He says, well, all the other people in your business, they fight with me. And I kind of started laughing. I said, yeah, I can believe that. And he looked at me and said, well, why did you fight with me? I said, because you're the G3. He says, yeah, but we're all colonels. He says, yeah, I'm a colonel, you're a colonel, we're all equal. But the G3, the king of operations, is most equal among all equals. Okay? You're the man. Why do I tell that story? One of the things about former relationships is to recognize who's who in what situation. You can't always be the man. Sometimes I can't tell you that part, but I can tell you there's sometimes where you are supporting, you are supported, or you are in charge. And you got to figure out what's appropriate because you can't always be in charge. And you can't always get it. You know, my friend General Barry Price talks about the rule of reciprocity. And Barry and I, we just, our kids know everything like that. And so one day I'm looking at him, and I did something for him, and when we got to the fourth, I did something for him. He said, stop. You don't understand the rule of reciprocity. Okay, Barry explains to me. He says, the rule of reciprocity is that we're teammates. So you can't give all the time. I have to give, you have to give. That's how we form a relationship. Otherwise, we really don't have that relationship going on. So that whole thing of forming relationships, integration and synchronization across the board, in my mind, is extremely important to run a successful unit. So when people look and say, all right, you drew down the forces in Iraq, how'd you do that? Well, the way for me in doing that is to get to know everybody that's going on. And one of the funny stories I have, I go over as we're trying to draw down the force, and my coach and mentor, Joe Anderson, calls me up and says, okay, hey, I need you to come over to Iraq real quick. And it's like, okay, yes, sir, I'm coming. Okay, wow, man, get over here real quick. So I get over there. And we're briefing General Ray O'Dear. And my friend Mike Lennox ran the structure of what was going on. And I drew down how we're going to do the forces and form them and everything else like that to have this slide going down. And so before he briefed the scene, you know, we got this going on, we're meeting all our goals. And so my first briefing, Mike briefs the structure going down. And General O'Dear looks at me and says, yeah, you got this. Yes, sir. And he says, so what do you think? I said, well, I think that we don't have the number of people who are supposed to be gone. He looks at me and says, no, you don't understand. Well, Mike and I had talked to each other, actually had talked to commanders and everything else like that to begin to tell them, hey, look, I'm going to school you. I'm going to tell you. But you know, part of that is that we're going to have shared responsibility. What's important with that is General O'Dear. And I don't know, we used to call him Shrek because he's a massive man. And when he got upset, he was but I got to tell you, I just, what a phenomenal leader. And he was passionate about taking care of troops. Everything that happened to a soldier, he took personally and everything else like that. So he's digging into it. He's going through, and I said, yeah, well, you know, what you think you got and what you got, they're all wrong. And of course, all the leaders are kind of looking and saying, where's this going? Where's this going? Finally, he looks at Mike Whaley, and me and Mike, to this day, Mike and I are tight. I mean, we have dinner together once a month. And then he looks at Mike and says, explain it to him. He says, oh, no, sir. See, I take care of the spaces, and he takes care of the faces and the formations. He's right. And of course, General Odier was kind of looking around and said, okay, Dad, so what are you going to do? Well, I'll just, sir, don't get me wrong. And of course, where I'm going with this is that where everybody else thought that, I was going to die now, it was going to be bad. No, I took that on. And then kind of said, okay, I took the heat because we're a team. We are a team. But from here on, if you don't do your role, well, I'm not carrying you anymore. I mean, it's sort of like playing baseball. Good catcher, you can keep the ball from going away. You may not put it in your mitt every time, but if you can't block the plate, I don't need you. You're a nice guy and everything else like that. But and maybe I need to move you to second base because being a catcher ain't what you're supposed to do, which is, in my mind, another thing about leadership. Sometimes you have somebody who's in a position, it doesn't fit for them. It's just not a good fit for them. So you could say, oh, okay, in the words of Mr. Slate Flintstone, you're fired. but in my mind, the right thing to do is to say, okay, what are you good at? Because I know you want to be a part of this team. So where do you fit? What do you good at? And then you find where they're at. And in my mind, and my experience has been, well, the team kind of looks around and says, you don't bash anybody. No, everybody has a place. Everybody can fit in what's going on. And so bringing it all back together, that whole idea of knowing your business, that makes you confident. But bring that team together to make sure that they know their jobs, which is discipline and cohesion, to work together as a team in order to do that. Because at the end of the day, the production, whether or not it's soldiering or in your business right here, it really is a team effort in order to do that. I mean, and you have to forge relationships with people who don't. In my business, if I don't know the operators, if I don't know the logisticians, I can't be successful. Probably in your business, if you don't know the banks, if you don't know people inside the city, and you haven't formed those relationships, you can probably produce, but you really can't be successful. It's my thought. So I'll stop right there because I could talk about this for really forever. And the reason I think I can talk about this forever is that God has blessed me with such great opportunities. I didn't know much about women, and there's this person by the name of Jeanette Webb who took one look at me and said, "Yeah, I'm going to own you for the rest of your life." and it was a blessing. I got children, and think about my son Michael, and he went the last group, Special Forces group, with the last group in Afghanistan. And here's one for your business. He bought his first house while he was deployed in Afghanistan. Wow. He bought his first house. Now think about what I'm saying to everybody out there. He found somebody who was willing to work with him online. And then that person online was willing, he had the relationships with banks and stuff like that to kind of look at him, that kind of had relationships with communities, because in Northern Virginia, you got homeowners associations all over the place. So you sort of got to pregame that and everything else like that. And he bought the house. He looked at me and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm buying a house." "Okay, all right, man, when you get back, we'll take a look." He says, No, man, I'm buying it. He says, "But I'm sending you stuff." And then I'm able to talk to people like Ken and things like that kind of get insights on, okay, what's he looking for? Okay, here's what he's looking for. He's got to anticipate that the lending rate's going to be like this. It's going to, the rate of the cost of houses will go up until this time and everything else like that. But those relationships that the realtors have make a difference. It makes all the difference for a person who can afford a house to be in the house that they can afford. I'll say that again. For a person who can afford a house to be in a house that they can afford, rather than they have to give it up. Those are good realtors. You probably can. My first house, that guy was like that. He looked at my wife, and this house was over 2/3 of my income. I kid you not. I was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwich for a long time. But the blessing is that we still own that house. And we are able to take a look at other soldiers who are in our Northern Virginia area and say, okay, you make sure that the mortgage is covered. And they kind of look around and they kind of say, wow, man, you know, that the cost of houses here, you know, you guys are taking, no, we just want you to be able to do that and everything. So it sort of works out that goes on. So that whole idea of being able to forge relationships, and I know I'm all over the place, but when we bring this all the way back to Michael, Michael's able to get this house, not use his GI Bill. Realtor works with the lender. The lender gives him the right place. And a year later, Michael finds somebody who's willing to pay the mortgage. So that person is in the house right now. He's in the second house. And he's looking at a third one right now. That's the power of being able to forge relationships and what you all do in your business. You really make a difference that goes on. My dad, when he bought his first house, believe it or not, it was one of those things that was on the courthouse steps. And he comes in with a cigar box of nickels, dimes, and quarters. And he pays for his first house. You know, and there's a guy by the name of Harry Humper, who, the good guy, and his brother, they just kind of said, we're going to back you up and provide that. That's what you all provide. So, she's
Burnett Savings and Loan.
Burnett Savings and Loan.
Very
Oh yeah. And so, and his son and I, John, are good friends to this day. You know, every time I come home, I go down to see John on Pike Street and everything else like that. But the deal is that I told you about my dad in his house, myself in my house, my son in my house. You guys make a difference. I know everybody does this to make money. I mean, you got to take care of your family, obviously. But the difference that you make across America is phenomenal. But in my mind, if you don't have discipline, cohesion, morality, decor, if you aren't able to look at your organization and say, I see myself. We do something good. Yeah, we make money. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not ashamed of making money. Yeah, that's it. But we do something good. We help people. We make a difference in people's lives. And that's what you do. You all do. That's what I think. I had no idea what I was going to say when I came in the room. But I really feel that. I really feel that way. You know, the last thing I'm going to say is this, is that I got blessed. I had a whole bunch of sergeants who took a knucklehead and said, you can do better. And those same sergeants kind of looked around and said, you know, someone's taking classes at Wallows and enlisting guy, they said, you need to go back to college. And next thing I knew, I had a scholarship to go to Xavier. And you know, I graduated with honors and things like that from Xavier. And the rest is like on a phenomenal trail. I mean, you know, no one had been in combat since Vietnam, and the next thing I know, I'm in the middle of Panama being shot at. It's like, oh. And my wife is calling me and says, when are we coming down here to Panama? Yeah, they coming down here. and so I come back, and the next thing I know, I'm in Washington, D.C., and I got the greatest African-American general, and I'm working for him directly. And he looks at me, and the guy who had coached and mentored me, I'm going somewhere with this in my life, personal relationship. I talked to him last night. I talk to him all the time about everything. One of the reasons I'm still married right now is because of this guy, General R.D. And General R.D. looked and said, you know, this position I'm going to put you in requires a colonel, but I'm going to help have you do the force. I want you to build a force. And so he did that primarily because I had a degree in IT. And the force needed to be a virtual process. And so he kind of brought me in there, and I did that. He just taught me so many things. But he didn't teach me just about how to build a force. He taught me about being a man, about the life. And so in my good leaders are those kind of guys guys, they got you as far as business, but they got you personally. They understand who you are. They understand what you are about. And that's really, really important. And you can't do that with everybody. You just can't. I mean, if you have 1,000 people that work for you, you can't know everybody, but you can be accessible to everybody. So when they need to talk to you, one of the troops when I was in the Yankee, man, looks at me and says, "Hey, sir, I heard you had attention deficit." I said, "That's not true." I said, "No, that's what I heard." I said, "I didn't have attention deficit. I have attention deficit." He starts laughing because he had attention deficit. He says, "Well, how did you get over it?" I said, "I just told you. You just work through it." Then you got leaders who look around and say, "Yeah, man, you are really spry, but you are capable." And then it goes back to that thing of finding out what somebody is good at. Everybody, every senior leader that I work for understood I ain't the guy who does the routine day-to-day things. If you need something fixed, George Strait has a song called Fireman. Call me the fireman. That's who I am. That's my name. And make my rounds all over town, putting out those flames. That's what I do. There's another person, and Brenda Andrews. She was another colonel when I was and she was steady as a rock on day-to-day business. Day-to-day business. We had a guy that worked for us. He had recently been separated. Was religious, but the separation hurt him pretty badly. And he was just sort of slacking. But he looked like the all-American guy. So Brenda says, "We got to get rid of this guy." I said, "No, we got a place for him." So, like I told you before, I'm not much on meetings. And so I looked at Kevin and I said, Kevin, I said, "Kevin, can you take this meeting for me?" He took the meeting. He took notes. John called me back and said, that guy, he's pretty good. The chief of staff called me and said, "That guy's pretty good." And so after a while, I just kept asking Kevin to go to meetings. And Brenda looked it up and said, "Why do you have Kevin go to all these meetings?" I said, "He's meeting man." I put a LM on his chest. Meeting man. She said, "What do you mean?" He says, "He looks the role. He's smart. He's smarter than most of the people on this team. He just is hurt right now." You understand what I'm saying? He's hurt. He lost his family. It hurt him really badly. And so he was in place. But when he started becoming a meeting man, he had value. This was the key. This is the closer in that. The closer was that every day between 5 and 6 o'clock, I kicked him out of the headquarters. And Brenda said, "Why do you kick him out?" I said, "Because he's looking for his next wife. So I got to let it out." And so, anyway, that whole idea, it wasn't me and Kevin. It was every other officer there looking and saying, if I need you, I know I can count on you. And I think as far as being a standard bearer, that's important. People would rather see a sermon than hear a sermon. They want to see who you are about. You talk the talk, but can you walk the talk? Yeah, that's what it's all about. And so, Colonel was the Peter principle for me. I mean, that's where I need to be. A lot of people say, "Man, you get access to so many things. Why didn't you move up the ranks?" Colonel was what I was supposed to be. And I wasn't supposed to be somebody higher. Was I technically capable of doing it? Yes. But was I politically capable of doing it? Not. I mean, just look at who I am right now. And you can tell I'm the guy that remember the story I told you about General O'Neill? He's a good guy. But I had the same conversation with General Petraeus. It didn't go well. It was sort of like, "Do you know who I am?" "Yeah, I know who you are." On the other hand, one of the things we admired about me was General Larry Ellis when President Bush, that's my hero right there. President Bush is my hero. He's a great guy. I got a chance to meet him a couple of times. That guy could look at me and say, "Hey, I got myself an old dudes, and I need you to come on down here to Austin, Texas." And I'd be down there now in the heartbeat. He's just a wonderful guy. He came down when we came back from OIF1. And he wanted to meet, this is the kind of guy he is. He wanted to personally meet with every family member of anyone who had died while we were in Iraq. He brought his wife with him. So I thought, okay, we need to do it here and we need to do it this way. Well, the force commander, I won't mention his name because I know him and I won't bust him up. He then said, yeah, I don't like this. The jumper trace kind of looks around and says, oh, okay, sir. I said, yeah, sir, that's not right. And jumper trace is trying to grab me at this time. Well, the force commander looks at me and says, well, you better explain that. And I looked at him and said, every one of these stations are for units that these guys died in. And it shows the history and the lineage. And he looked at me and said, I never saw it like that. And he was open with it from there. And President Bush came down there, and he and his wife tore it up. There was not a dry eye. The program was supposed to be for like an hour and a half. Like 3 hours later, and he's just going down, taking pictures, shaking hands. We had Kleenexes at every station. All those boxes were empty. I had to go get some more. I mean, it's just a phenomenal job. And why was that? President Bush took it from the heart. It wasn't a photo op. In fact, he wouldn't let the press come. It wasn't a photo op. They used to say in Covington all the time, be for real. So he was for real. He was genuine. And it made a difference. If I had something to end with or to leave with, it would be that. Being genuine is probably the most important part about being a stand. If you're a hard body, be a hard body. Be no cuz, be a no cuz. If you're soft, be soft. Because your troops, your people that work for you, they will know that you're a hard body and that you're a no cuz. They can handle that. If you're softy, they can handle that. But that guy who's going between all the two trying to negotiate through that, team doesn't know what to do. They don't know when you're going to yell and when you're going to try to put your arms around them and be nice.
Be authentic.
Yeah, just be genuine.
We preach that all the time, especially doing videos like this. And then some of my takeaways obviously are, you said it at the beginning of when we sat down, and it was know what you're doing and the right thing. And that's been our motto here since we teamed up, and that was work hard, be nice.
Yeah. But
it goes a long way.
But you're right. Nice. It's cool. I teach CCD, which is the Catholic version of Sunday school. And Mr. Bob only has one rule. Don't be rude. You do anything you want to, Mr. Bob, got to go back. Now you go. Don't even raise your hand anymore. Got to go. But you can't be rude. Be nice. That is so, that I think that covers everything. I really do. I never said mine was always don't be rude, but that's in the negative. I like be nice. That's in the positive. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So obviously your stories are incredible. Trying to translate it to real estate or to any profession or business, when things aren't going the way that you want them to. Obviously, I think that's the case for a lot of agents right now with interest rates where they're at and the market changed. Any advice or stories?
Oh yeah, I got a couple of ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're deployed. We're in Iraq. I'm working for Joe Anderson. He called me over. So we had this special forces guy who was leaving, and we were supposed to be replaced. Well, no one told me about this. So we came in, and one guy got nominated from another service to come in. So somebody looks at me and says, "Hey, I read that so-and-so got nominated." He said, "Yeah." He says, "That's not who I heard the leadership wanted." So I looked at General Anderson and I said, "Well, we got Jenny that's coming in, but I heard you want Joey." He said, "Yeah, Joey better be coming." And I looked at him and said, "No, Jimmy's on orders." He said, "Yeah, I'd advise you to fix that." And so, the thing is that remember that deal about Colin, forging relationships? Well, he was colonel then, and later General Tom Stevens. And actually, I talked about CCD. I taught his daughter CCD. That's how close we are. I called him up and said, "Hey, Tom, little help." That's what we say in baseball, a little help. He says, "Okay, man, what do you need?" I said, "Well, I got Jimmy coming in, but they want Joey." He says, "Yeah, don't worry about it anymore. Joey's coming in." And so the key in my mind, that nothing works the way that it's supposed to work. The inventory doesn't work the way it's supposed to work or anything else. But if you force relationships and you're able to give a little bit, there was a time in the 90s where we didn't have all the people that we wanted. And so I went up to Washington, D.C., and one of the guys was having a problem. He had people at the 82nd Airborne that were washing out. They weren't making it through the airborne school. And so in the 82nd is pounding him. Get rid of these guys. And so I'm listening to him. And I looked at him and said, I can help you with that. I said, what do you mean? I said, well, just send him to the 101st. He said, is that going to be okay? He said, we'll take care of him. I said, and oh, by the way, I'll give you something back, but I'm not going to give you a one-for-one. It won't work out. And so all of a sudden, all the shortages that we had got filled. And the deal is that he was able then to take another, because he had a pipeline to take those guys off the table. He was able to kind of bring new people inside that. And so the whole idea, once again, if we didn't have a relationship, it wouldn't work. If he wasn't willing to give, and I wasn't willing to give, it wouldn't work. And so things are going to break, and things are going to be tough. So a lot of people say, well, get over it. No, get scared. Because they're scared, they get nervous, and then start thinking. And the thing that has always worked for me is that bring your team in, start there, and then branch out. And folks will come about, and you'll find solutions. But the one thing I can tell you with no doubt in my mind, you can't fix broken situations by yourself. You can't fix them by yourself. It can't be done. Because if you were that smart, it wouldn't have been broken in the first place. So you in my mind, the whole idea is not to try to hide it. All of us have been kids where we spilled something, we lost something, and every time you try to hide it, that's about what we're coming. But if you just kind of say, I messed up, and I'm willing to take the lumps, but now what are we going to do to make this better? Because we do have to make it better, and especially in a professional situation. Everybody messes up. Everybody has accidents. Everybody messes up. One, because the situation changes. And sometimes you mess up because you just messed it up. But you can't fix it, by trying to hide it. You got to bring it out. And the best way to bring it out is to talk to your team, talk to your teammates, and then across the board. And I don't know if that answers your question or not.
No, absolutely.
So,
You can tell by now that Bob's been a man of service his whole life. If you got a couple minutes, I know what he's doing today. In fact, we're working together with the Joseph House in Cincinnati, which is a veterans nonprofit that takes care of our addicted and homeless veterans. I don't know if many people even know that that's over there, but it's a heck of a mission. And Bob's on their board of directors from Virginia, but he works on course down here. But also recognize the need in the educational field and veterans trying to figure out what to do when they got into service. There's your soft toss. Tell us about that.
What we do is that we try to take veterans and put them into American public schools as teachers, bus drivers, IT folks, food service, maintenance, whatever. And what brought this about is, as I told you about General Dave Whaley is my other coach and mentor. And he looked at me one day and said, what are you going to do when you retire? And I said, well, I'm going to go back home. I'm going to teach and I'm going to coach baseball. Well, we ran into a program from the government, and they just had a hard time. And finally, I looked at him and said, I'm having a hard time with this. He says, well, I'm trying to fix it. Why do you think it's so difficult? So it's not properly resourced. It's not properly designed. So we put together this program. It's a virtual process, which changed everything. One of the things I think that people miss is that we are in the fourth industrial revolution. And so working things virtually becomes a way of life. Excuse me. Talked about my son, and now I'm talking about us, and the whole idea was to make everything available. So all of a sudden, social media becomes a big deal. Then the ability for people to kind of contact us virtually and to say, here's what I want to do, here's where I want to go. So that's what we try to do, and we put that together. So somebody said, why would soldiers or sailors or Marines or airmen want to do this is because they have served. Their life has been all about service. And so they too want to take care of their families, but they want a life, a purpose-filled life, something that makes a difference. And that's why they want to do it. And the second reason is that, look at this. I mean, all these guys, whether you're an enlisted guy or an officer, you're a trainer, you're an organizer. Imagine this. Imagine all the kids who are being bullied on the bus. And now all of a sudden, you got yourself this Marine who just got out. He's driving the bus. You know, and the bully is picking on people. And that's the kids are going, let me holler at John. When he gets to communicate to him, you know, he can bully a lot of places, but guess where he ain't bullying anymore? He ain't bullying on that bus. and so when we first started doing this, folks said, well, you guys can make things secure. And I said, we don't do security. We provide a safe environment. This is not Afghanistan. This is not Iraq. You know, this is not Kuwait. We are not here to engage. We're not policemen. What we are trained professionals who can provide a safe environment. And that's sort of what we try to do, even inside a classroom for the guy who's doing all this. And how we came about with that and our success was the shootings down in Florida. The Department of Education stopped by and they started talking to us. And we actually started saying, here's the community that can make a difference, and this is how you do it. And so they said, can you write this up? So the President's Commission, said, we actually wrote that up. Now, I'm not joking with you. And President Trump then looks at Congressman Duffy and Congressman Gabbard. And she's really famous right now for flipping, but one Republican, one Democrat, and said, you know, can you guys push this forward? It was such a good idea to the folks in Congress that they put a letter out, and virtually every member in the House signed that letter. So anyway, that's who we are. That's what we're about. We think that we can make a difference in doing it. We still have some things in legislation that we got to do to make it better and make it more viable. But we can think that the last part of it is that when we get to that point, we'll raise money, and that'll be able to help people to go to school. And it's just a hard thing. See, it's easy to get people to be bus drivers and things like that. But if you want to teach, you know, the certification issue can take a couple of years. Think about this for a minute. You're 28 years old, and you got a family. What 28-year-old person has 2 years to add? You know, I'm not going to make any money, baby. You know, that dog won't hunt. So what we're trying to do is two things. First thing is to provide funding for those folks to go to school so they can continue to take care of their families. But something more important, we're trying to do trying to keep the certification process. Because you have skills that say, if most of the people who want to teach have degrees. And so the whole idea is that, how do you do that? And so we, NASDAQ is a national association for certification and things like that. We've worked with those folks, and we've actually, and the funny part is the school that has the process is who? The Ohio State University.
Oh, you did
Go Bucks.
The biggest scumbag in the world. You didn't mean scumbag.
The Ohio. Notice what I call it. They didn't say Ohio State. The Ohio State. OHIO. That's right. Yep. So anyway, they do that. We don't have a football team, and they can't beat us in basketball. So it works out. But in all honesty, that's what that's all about. So doing that is a big deal. Joseph House is a heck of an organization, and you know it just is. It's made such a big difference. And here's why I came back to Joseph House. We are on the west end of town, over by Liberty and and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, right.
Okay, and of course, you know, the neighborhood is being changed, and so the rules and stuff like that. So one day, I look at Mr. Daly and say, hey, look, we got these buildings, man, and we're trying to get a new place. And this is the difference that people in your business make for the community. You kind of looked and said, yeah, I can help with that. And I can help you with getting organizations to help buy stuff, to get funded so that you can get off to a start. And so virtually the majority of the effort in order to make this move happen, thanks to Kenneth, has been done. And that's what people in your business do for the community, because we can't do that. We don't know. You know, there are people who say, well, I know this guy, I know that guy. That's nice, but, you know, does he know you? So, and so, yeah, that's the difference that you make. And you know, I just want to kind of recognize that again, forging relationships, integration, synchronization, up and down your organization and across the board makes a big difference. I just think that. So that's who I am and what I'm about. And sometimes people look at me and say, well, with your experience, how come you're not in corporate America? And it's really simple. Grew up on the East Side of Pelham. I've been given a lot, you know, and guys like me, you know, the next wave, you know, our families and stuff like that, you know, they'll pick up that stuff. But me, my duty is to give back now to the community. Some folks say, well, why here? That's where I'm from, man. This is my home. No matter, you know, I 6 out of 7 continents I've been on. Okay, this is still home. I still cheer for the Reds.
Right here.
You know, we're number 3, the 3rd worst team in baseball this year. But it's still, and every meeting, all summer long, people will remind me of how the Reds did during the week, because I'm a fanatic for the Reds. This is why I'm, you know, Bengals, you know, I'm okay with the Bengals.
Come Reds.
I knew you were going to say that. But this is the home team. So, you know,
Yeah.
I love this town. This is a great town to grow up in. Even the east side of Covington, it's rough, but it's a good town, good people across the board. So I love this place, period. I hope that
Yeah, no, so you're obviously a very busy man. Have been for a long time. How do you plan? How do you keep organized?
it's a team effort. Okay, so the first thing I will say is that the key with planning is to know what the tasks are, and then to know that you can't do it all by yourself. That was a hard lesson for me to learn. You can't do it all by yourself. And so the second part of that is that if you can't do it all by yourself, what you're going to get, and also you begin to recognize you don't have to do it all by yourself. And then the third awareness is that people want to be busy with you. They want it, and if you're doing meaningful stuff, they want to work with you and stuff like that. So that whole idea of identifying what needs to be done, and then finding what are the resources that need to support this, and then kind of train people, give them the resources so that they can go out there and do that. And the hardest part is this: you can do that on a day-to-day, week-to-week, even a monthly basis. But to be able to kind of take a look and say, a few years out, how's all this going to work out? Because that's where the difference is. And the truth of the matter is that if you're in an organization and the senior guys aren't looking at least 5 years out, that organization is not going to be successful. It can't be successful. They can't get the resources and training. Think about this for just a second. I talked about the 4th Industrial Revolution. Think about how much has changed in the way that we do business. If you were focused in on the monthly thing, you didn't see that coming. And how many people in your business have you seen that just got eliminated, not because they were dumb or bad, but because they just didn't adapt to the environment? So that
I'm by Wright Pat Air Force Base, so we've had people PCSing buying houses for years. So yeah, 3D tours, virtual tours.
And you got to be able to do that. And those virtual tours are important. The last house we bought, literally Jeanette says, well, go up to Northern Virginia and find us a house. So I found, the person who was a good realtor. I said, okay. I came back and said, okay, here's what's available. And they all kind of took a look at the houses and said, okay, this is one of them. And then, but if you can't think about that, well, it's the same way. If you didn't have the insight as a realtor, by the way, you'll never believe what company we work with. This is going to mess you up. Our last two houses, Remax.
We didn't pay you for that.
No, Remax.
Great plug.
And believe it or not, they knew what you just said. They knew the military community. I mean, it wasn't like they just gave us anybody. They gave us people who were veterans or spouses of veterans to kind of work, and they knew exactly what went on and everything else like that. And so, it's just funny that we're talking about this right now. But those guys had the foresight to do exactly what you just said. They understood that here's the community that's going on. They also understood in the Washington, D.C. community that the government was going to, release certain agencies from the area, and they were going to bring in businesses, and they made the transition. You're going to bring other nations. Well, that means that I got to bring people in who speak those languages, who understand that culture, and they were smart enough to get that. Not everybody got that. So that's what I mean by that. That you really, that day-to-day thing is the easy part, but that deal of kind of taking a look, here's where we're going. Okay, good. I love hockey. And if great hockey players don't skate to where the puck is, they skate to where it's going.
Wayne Gretzky.
They skate to where it's going. And that's what you do. I hope that answers the question.
No, absolutely. And I think that's, it was very easy for especially 1.6 million agents in the U.S. over the last how many years that have just been skating to where the puck is, and it's been easy.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But I think, preparing for when the market changed, having the relationship, I think that's what we established around our last town hall,
Right.
was that these agents that are successful and will stay successful throughout a market shift never changed what they were doing. They were prepared for a good market or a bad market. And so they were doing the things that make them successful routinely.
Right.
And I think that's very common with what you do and what you preach. And obviously there's a lot of routine with anything in the military, right? Wake up, make the bed.
Well, yeah. but the thing that you alluded to, if you have once again, a lot of the things that I have are biblically based. Okay. Now remember, I'm a crazy Irishman, mega sci-fi, and a Shriner. So and a fourth degree now. So I'm not here to preach to you that I'm this super religious guy, but you read about the guys in the Old Testament, and they go through 7 years of feast. That's what Joseph had, and 7 years of famine. And by being prepared and stored for 7 years of famine, Joseph is able to help hook up Pharaoh. Well, that's what guys do. Your guys kind of look and say, yeah, it's easy right now. The net's open. I just and score. But when you get 7 years of feast, of famine, if you're not prepared for that, or anything else like that, then you're going down.
Well,
That was called 2009.
No, it's. I guess where I'm going with it is that it's very easy to forget some of those habits or routines when things are easy.
Oh yeah, you're so right, and that's when you have to look at people and make them go through the drills anyway. And seriously, you just have to do the drills. And some people say, no, everything's okay. No, we're not preparing for it right now. Because you're right, everything is okay. We're preparing for it when stuff hits the fan. Yeah, that's what, because regardless of what business you're in, there is a day where the stuff is going to hit the fan.
Absolutely.
The guy,
Remember your training, right?
yes, exactly right. The guy called Murphy, he is out there.
Find him too often.
It's just been, it's been a great relationship that we formed. And I think it's been so easy. If you're watching this program, you understand how easy it is to like a guy like Bob. But it's really refreshing to see role models for everybody and to be as humble as you are. I mean, we're talking a guy who set Joint Chief of Staff meetings, did war planning in Afghanistan, dealt with Fort Hood, and all. I mean, it's just some phenomenal kind of things. But he's as humble and he remembers his roots. Always be humble and be kind. I mean, you epitomize that. So
I appreciate
it's been my pleasure to get to know you.
I appreciate it. But it's my boy right there. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah, that's right. And it all started with what? Baseball.
Well, I was thinking before we talk baseball,
Yeah,
about leadership.
Yeah.
Dealing with personalities. Who better than Sparky Anderson?
Yeah, no, that's right. The Spark.
And Dusty Baker.
Now, man.
All hail Dusty Baker.
All hail Dusty Baker.
People who knew how to do people. They all knew baseball.
Yeah.
Those two guys knew how to do people.
And he got the best of them out this year. And so, just think about it. Just redefine what a shortstop should look like. Yeah, what a great.
That'd be Leo Foster.
Yeah, and Gabe Foster.
Anybody old enough to remember Leo Foster? The whole time. He played back in our era. Best shortstop I've ever seen.
Senior. And if he didn't get hurt, he would have been part of the red machine. Yeah, it's great.
I do remember his. It has nothing to do with anybody. I do remember his first major league game. He came up with Atlanta Braves.
Right. Yeah.
And he started at shortstop. And I think he had. I'll get this wrong. I think he struck out 3 times and had an error. And they asked him as a game, how was it? He goes, it's not exactly the way I always dreamed. It's very funny. Because it's not what I thought it was going to be like.
Oh, what a great guy. And again, talk about humble. He was not the guy, who would dance in the end zone. I mean, he's just, play ball. And that was, that was that. Yeah.
Do you have any funny little tidbits? Any experiences not classified? I used to get emails from Bob. They had this classification thing on it. Oh yeah, he's in the Pentagon.
Well, one of the things that we just talked about that's true, and I've lived by this, is that Murphy, and I used to tell people this all the time, Murphy's out there. And they said, what do you mean? Murphy he just comes out of nowhere. We used to have congressional visits when I was in the battalion command. And one of the things that we were trying to do is try to tell them, the insulation is just messed up. And so they would come by to visit the installation. And I'm telling you right now, the thing that used to crack me up, there was always some trooper who would have to go to the bathroom. and he would leave a gift floating. And it just would crack, and guys would get upset. And so, we used to literally put guards at the bathrooms to make sure that those sort of things happen. Okay, that's sort of funny and sort of gross. So the point that I would get always end with is this: things are going to happen. Okay, some of them you can prevent, and some of them, no matter how hard you try, they're just going down. So you can do one or two things. You can get all upset and kick the can, or you can kind of look and say, yeah, Murphy, you got me this time, didn't you? And then the team lightens up. It comes down to the objective is not to just boom. The objective is to control the environment by understanding that things are going to happen and being able to react as things go on. And that's the deal in my mind. Being able to react. And it didn't matter if it was building the force, being in combat, being inside the Pentagon, and seeing things that are going on. But the ability to kind of look at a situation and say, yeah, this is not what I thought was going to happen. And then you just kind of make the adjustment to kind of say, and the second part of that to me has always been, you gotta laugh at it. You gotta look at me. Everybody's always looking at me and say, what are you laughing at? The situation, man. I did not see this coming. And it is within my behind. I will get on top of this, but right now it's just fine. You know, I got no control over this. And that's life. I mean, think about it for a second. That's life. You just run into things in life. We're so busy when we're successful, and you know, the balance sheets go on, and you can do all that. And inside a perfect world, inside a classroom, you can everything balances out. But in the real world, things just happen, man. And you look around and you say, no, really, I thought we had these accounts balanced. Yeah, that's what I thought too. and you just kind of look and say, okay, what are we gonna do? Well, we gotta fix it. And you pull together and you do it. And so my thing that I've always told my teams is that, you know, embrace change, and embrace it, the whole idea that things are gonna happen. And not only embracing it doesn't mean getting over it. And it doesn't mean getting used to it. It means live it. That's your life. That's what you live with. That's what you do. And so if you're good at that, then you're a champion. See, you're not a champion if things are normal. Anybody can do that. But when things happen and you don't know the situation, but you're thinking all the time and you're reacting, and the team pulls together, and all of a sudden you look around and say, man, it looked like a storm. Now there's nothing but sunshine and unicorns and rainbows and clouds. You know, you get through it. And in my mind, my experience has been when the team weathers a storm like that, and they do it really successfully, they're good, and they know they're good. See, that's when they know they're good. And in my mind, what's so important about that is this: it's not, hey man, we're good. No, we know that when you need someone to make a difference, we can make a difference. It's more than we can do our job. We can do a difference because we're that team that call it. And so there are those team guys who start on varsity, and then there are those guys who are on the traveling squad, and because they're just that good. Yeah. And the way that you get that there, in my mind, is that all the stuff that goes about changing and Murphy and everything else like that. Get used to it. Get comfortable with it. You know, honestly, if you're a leader, don't get bad, because
Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Get comfortable. That's a great way to say it. Really get comfortable being, because you are outside of your comfort zone, but so's your team. So they're looking for you not to get mad. They're looking at you to kind of say, okay, how are we going to get there? You know, I laugh about this all the time, and I say this, you know, Private Whaley used to say, okay, well, we're going to do that SARS. And he comes up with a solution, and guess what? It works. You know, hey, wait, yes, SARS, you just do what I tell you to do. Okay. So, this is my favorite line from the movie Forrest Gump. He does disassembles a weapon in record time. And the sergeant looks and says, "Gump, what made you do that weapon so quickly?" And he looks around and says, "'Cause you told me to." You're doggone right. And so, you know, the team reacts like that. If you're a leader who's always just steady in those times of peril and chaos, because you're the guy, you're standing there. You got to be the first person that doesn't pull an oar, but the rudder to get the direction going. Okay, we're going to go this way. What if that doesn't work? Oh, it's not if it doesn't work, it's when it doesn't work. Because we don't know what we're doing right now, but we are going to get through it, and we'll just keep making it's no matter what business, even manufacturing, it's an iterative process. So you just got to be able to kind of make the adjustments as you go along, and next thing you know, steady stream, everything's okay. You know, eat popcorn, drink grape soda.
I know Friday is Veterans Day.
Yeah,
Which brings me to my point here is that I just want to personally thank you for
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
all the service, all the things you've done for our country, the example you are for all the people below you, your family. It's been a wonderful life of service, and I know sometimes you don't think you do enough.
You know something.
Which
you're
means
right
he
about
does
that.
a lot.
I didn't, but
When the
America-
job finished, you give it to this man.
Yeah, that's it. I got to tell you though, America, when we grew up, we saw the guys from Vietnam and how they were received. America has not received us like that at all. America has treated us well. So for those guys from Grenada forward, we had a different experience. And so I am very grateful to the people of this nation and the support that they've given to people, not only when they serve, but when they get out. It's just a great gift to see that. And that's why I tell people all the time, no matter all the chaos and all the drama that you see on the news, it's a great country. Just think about what we just said. Guy from that side of the Potomac, guy from this side of Covington, and look at the things that we've been able to do only in America. I'm 2 blocks from Jacob Price Homes, and now I'm in the freaking White House. Are you kidding? Only in America, and so it's a great country, and I will tell you, I appreciate people when they recognize my service, but I can't. There's a side of me that always starts laughing and says, "And they pay me to do this."
Yeah.
And so because you grow up on that side of town, and they say, when you get to break head, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. So I love this country. I'd do anything for this country. Oh, yeah, do we have some rough spots? Of course we do. I mean, every family has a rough. But we're good. I love this place, man.
Sorry, we lost audio, or be there for a second.
That's okay.
No, thank you so much for joining. Honored to have you here.
And you have no idea. I mean, I can't wait to show you my dad. He's laughing his butt off.
Yeah, we'll definitely post a follow up
Okay.
in the services.
All right.
Thank you for joining.
I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much.